Hi there. Okay, we all have a job to do. We have to make sure, people, that this never, ever happens again. When I say never happens again, we should never have a shutdown. Never. Our wonderful President Trump got trapped into this with these models and this idea that we have to shut down, that we were going to overwhelm the hospitals. It never happened. It never happened. So in the future, we have to make sure we never do this. I've been reading a lot about previous pandemics, and perhaps you have been too. But like in my lifetime, we had the Asian flu pandemic, 1957, 1958. Something like 70 to 100,000 deaths from that. There was never any talk in the US. There was never any talk of shutting down. We had the Hong Kong flu pandemic, 1968, 69. Did we even really know about it? Did we shut down? No, not at all. We had Woodstock. We had other groups of people. At that time, the population in the US was about 200 million people. We now have something like 320 million. And it killed something like 100,000 people in the United States and 1 million worldwide. We're not anywhere near to that now with this coronavirus. So why did this happen? Now we could debate it, but I think the most important thing is we just have to not allow it to happen again. Now you might think, well, how do we do that? Well, there was a lot of political pressure put on our president to do something. We just have to make sure that future presidents know that this is not one of the things you're going to do. And hopefully, I shouldn't say hopefully, we have to make sure the downsides of this are known and we talk to people. And so that is each one of our responsibilities, is to talk to others, to explain it, to not give in to these incredible, weird fears that are so baseless. It's amazing to me. Okay, we'll win this. And one of the ways we do that is think about this. Our culture celebrates heroes, not wimps. The people that want to shut down, stay holed up in their house, they're wimps. And the arguments are absurd, ludicrous, laughable. There was something twinning on Twitter. Some woman said something and they called her, I don't know, kill grandma. So seriously? Think about this. These are insane arguments. So laugh at them. Okay, so here's one of the things you could do. I was thinking, I like to study this thing. I feel very strong in my views. So it's kind of easy for me to fight back if I'm having a discussion with someone. But I know a lot of people, they may know it in their heart and in their mind, but they don't really know what to say. So you got to go with your own style, okay? But here are a few what I think are good comebacks. To just say, we've never quarantined healthy people before. And we can't just shut down our society and our economy and take kids out of school every time there's a pandemic, because we have these periodically. And even if we have a vaccine, the vaccine doesn't always work, and not everybody takes the vaccine. So it's just not a viable option, okay? And here's another thing that we cannot have happen again, is we cannot take away our constitutional rights. What has been really revealing, and you gotta call a spade, but this idea of governors, mayors, or whatever, to just make these arbitrary rules, like we are little kids in first grade, and we've gotta follow these rules. And they're insipid. They're stupid, okay? That's why I'm a fan of civil disobedience. Just don't do it. We've got to just fight back. We've got to fight back. They cannot take away our constitutional rights. Now, I mentioned in my previous video that I like Twitter. I really like Twitter because you can control what you see. You can just don't follow people you don't like. But there's a lot of good people out there. And there's a lot of people who are filing suit. Harmy Dillon is doing that. People are starting to fight back, really fight back. I mean, it's amazing to me, and I've contributed some money to various people doing certain things, but we've got to fight back. We've got to say no, and then, holy cow, we just can't vote for these people. I mean, who are they to just decide they can take away our rights as American citizens? You know, it all comes back. I think one of the things that happened to me early on is I was very health conscious and doing my own study, and I realized the medical profession was more about sickness than health. So I developed my own independent thinking about it. I mean, the medical profession is good for certain things, but in terms of your integrated wellness, they're not good. They don't really know anything about that unless they happen to be a doctor who teaches themselves. Like if I were a doctor, I would know about these things because they teach them. They're self-taught. So that started me on thinking for myself in that area. And now I have some credibility because I'm 66 years old and I'm very fit, very healthy, and I look good for my age. So it's kind of fun. You know, when you're younger, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, no. I mean, people want to hear what I have to say. So I feel confident about that. But I understand a lot of people don't feel confident. So one of the things you could do, and this is something I've done for myself in the past, if you're afraid of something, like of saying something, and you're thinking about it ahead of time, I find it helpful to go worst case in your mind. Think, what is the worst that can happen? Like, let's say you're afraid to say something to a friend, or to somebody you know, or at a meeting. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And then once you go there and you accept that as a possibility, the fear tends to go away. I find that helps. Let me give you an example. As I've mentioned to some of you, in some videos in the past, I'm on these chairs councils at Caltech. And it's pretty cool because I'm on 3 of them. So there was one in the Geology and Planetary Sciences Chairs Council. They had a white paper that was sent around ahead of time that was going to be discussed at the next meeting. And this white paper had a lot of stuff about climate change. And to tell you the truth, when I read it, I felt sick. Like, oh my gosh. I did not like it at all. And you could tell it had 2 authors because part of it sounded kind of okay, just look at the basic science. And the other part was just your random leftist, the world is coming to an end rhetoric. At least that's the way I saw it. So I thought, what am I going to do? I mean, what I really wanted to do was just not go to the meeting. Just like, I can't participate in this. But I thought, if I can't speak my mind, why am I on this Chairs Council? At this stage of my life, if I can't be free to be who I am and what I've learned or what I think I've learned and to say something about it, why would I want to be on this committee? So I thought, no, I'll go. But then I thought, well, I don't want to just come out and say how terrible this paper is. So I called the head of the committee, the professor. I won't give his name, but He's a professor at Caltech. And I said, John, I've got real problems with this paper, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. And he was very nice. And he heard me out. We talked for about a half hour about it. And at the end, to my surprise, because I was planning on just letting him know how I felt about the paper and then basically not saying anything much, he said, Deborah, I encourage you to bring all this up during the meeting. So I said, okay. And I did. And it was kind of interesting. I didn't really get much pushback because one of the things I found was that I gave cover to other people. It was sort of like, I mean, they didn't say it exactly this way, but it's like, well, I'm not going to go as far as Deborah, but I agree. I mean, everybody knows those models, the climate models are bad. Nobody said those models were good. But it was really kind of interesting to me that it wasn't as bad as I thought. But in any event, I didn't care. I had the freedom to speak my mind because I said, I don't even want to be there if I can't speak my mind. And, I'm nice about it. I don't want to be one of these people who speaks my mind, and takes over the meeting or does it in some kind of rude way. There's appropriate time to speak and appropriate time to be quiet, but you still should express your views. So anyway, I see a ton. Oh, let me get back to your simple comebacks. So as I said, you can say to people, we've never quarantined people before. This is kind of strange. We've never quarantined healthy people, sick people, people who have vulnerabilities, comorbidities. They should take care of themselves. That's the whole point. We are adults. People in the government or people in the know give us information, and then we decide. But don't tell us what we can and cannot do, okay? Don't do that. Like if a business wants to put a sign out and say, to come into our business, you got to wear a mask. Well, okay, that's their choice. But I would prefer to go into a store where I don't have to put on a mask. So I will choose that store over another store that doesn't require a mask because I think that's baloney. It's crazy. I mean, I am not worried about getting this virus. So you can say that. And then the other thing you can say is, hey, nobody's stopping you. If you want to stay indoors, stay indoors. But this whole idea of a lockdown has morphed. I mean, the goalposts have changed. I mean, now it's kind of like we don't want anybody to get sick. Oh my God. That's not the way the world works, people. That's not the way the world works. So I encourage you to be strong here and don't be cowed by these people, okay? Don't be cowed by these people who try to you don't support the science. Well, that's just such baloney. It's the same thing about the climate change. Oh my God, there are so many parallels between this and the climate change issue. Oh, it's amazing. But anyway, what they try to do is try to imply that you're not for science or you're not for this, and just say, no, that's not true. Take, for example, climate change. For those of you who saw the Michael Moore documentary, which was really kind of anti-human, but it really told a good story about renewable energy. And that was one of the things that bothered me, because if you love the environment, then you want a very dense fuel that doesn't take up a lot of outdoor space, if you will. Well, renewables, they are a dilute source of energy. So you have to cover the environment with these solar panels. I mean, aside from all the other problems with the renewables, that they're unreliable, blah, blah, blah. But environmentally speaking, they're the worst solution. I mean, the best solution is a little compact, nuclear. And after that, it's fossil fuels like clean coal or natural gas. I mean, they don't take up that much space. But to put wind turbines out, or to just, infrasound that actually is damaging to your heart if you're close by. They've noticed that. People have heart problems, and it's very stressful, so people don't like to live by that. But it kills a ton of birds. It's horrible, and they're unsightly. So what's this about the environment? Do they really love the environment? What is this about? Okay? So don't tell me it's about science. It's not about science. Let me go into, so I've been noticing there's a big problem with the left. And don't give up on the left. I used to be a Democrat. Some of these kind of globalist mindsets, I was a part of that. But I've changed. And many people have changed. That's why we have this whole walk away movement. So maybe this will change for some people. People who've lost their businesses. And it's like, why did we do this? Ask that question. Why did we do this? The big problem with the left is that their policies promote fear. Think about it. Their policies promote fear. And fear of things you really don't have to fear. Like the world. We got to save the planet. Everybody's going to get this coronavirus if we don't stay indoors. Now, some of them could say, well, we're just closing, people like me are just closing our eyes to the reality. But why do they believe that? What's going on? And then they seem to want a government, like a federal government, like a Chinese-style government, to make decisions for them. It's like they're little children in a way. They want some kind of elite to decide things for them. And it's like, we've got to fight back against that. Like one of the things I've noticed, okay, in both cases, these are based on models. Models that have never been shown to be true. Okay? And if you don't know much about climate change, here's the thing. It used to be called global warming. Why did they change it to climate change and then to extreme weather and whatever? It's because the models never panned out. They were projecting warmth. And as some of you may know, they were projecting that we wouldn't see snow anymore around 2000. So we did have kind of a hot decade, I guess, in the 1990s. But then it leveled off. It was called the hiatus. And so when that didn't work, you had to start changing the models. You had to start doing a lot of shenanigans. Not changing the models, changing the goalposts. And a lot of shenanigans. And also another thing you had to do is you had to get rid of dissenters. And that's what, I think that, in addition to other things, when I was looking into this, like my puzzlement as to why people who were really concerned about climate change, or global warming at the time, didn't support nuclear power. It didn't make any sense to me, because nuclear power has no carbon dioxide emissions. So it would be the most reasonable thing to be for, but they were against that. So that raised questions in my mind. But what it really did was when I saw how they treated the scientist who questioned it. And you can go back and watch my climate alarmism made me walk away. But that affected me on a personal level. I mean, I just was bothered by that big time. It's like, why would you attack the person and not the argument? And I saw that more and more. Now, what's interesting about this whole coronavirus, like the epidemiologists who are saying these models have been all wrong, which they have been, it's now clear, about how many people would die or get this or how serious it would be. We haven't really had time to diminish those scientists. Now, YouTube has tried to take off their videos or whatever. But we haven't had time to get rid of the dissenters because this has all happened so fast. So that's good. And more dissenters are speaking out. But the other one that I notice in terms of parallels is this idea of rules for thee, but not for me. It's really kind of disgusting, very disgusting, about how the elites, the movie stars, whatever, the political pundits, the Democratic governors, mayors, they make rules for other people, but they don't follow them themselves. And they have no intention of following them themselves. First of all, these people have jobs. So let's continue the shutdown like it doesn't matter to anybody else. That's horrible. But like think about climate change. Think about somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio, who's a big proponent, and Al Gore and all those others. All of them. They have big mansions. They fly in private jets. They go off to these conferences. Well, not right now. But they live this very fossil fuel intensive, energy intensive lifestyle. Now, I don't begrudge them that, but they want the rest of us to give up our way of life. I mean, energy is key to our way of life. We have to have energy, period. Lots of it. It's key to our economy. It's key to everything. Now, some people say, well, what about the CO2? So in Twitter, because people ask that question, they hear increasing CO2 is a bad thing. I'm like it's bad for human health. No, it's not. This is a good fact to know. You need to know this fact. Write it down. Every exhale of your breath is 38,000 parts per million. Okay? 38,000 parts per million. The ambient temperature out there, or not temperature, but level of CO2 is 415, whatever, parts per million. If CO2 was bad for you, you would never kiss anybody, you would never hold a baby close, you would never talk to your plants. You talk to your plants, they grow better. That tells you right there, that's one fact you have to know. That one fact tells you that CO2 is not bad for your health, okay? There's a lot of benefits that CO2 have for the planet. We are at historically, in terms of Earth's history, we're extremely low levels. And now that we've gone up a little bit, we were around, I guess, in the late 1800s, we were like 283 parts per million, something like that. And now we're 415. We've had a noticeable greening of the earth and an improvement in agricultural productivity. I mean, that has been scientifically established. So you just need to know a few facts and just say, no, I'm not going for it. But the thing that really bothers me is this idea that you can become a petty tyrant. That with this coronavirus, you can just make all kinds of rules that make no sense. Instead of letting us, it's not a matter of letting us. I don't even like that word. We must demand it. These are decisions we make for ourselves and our families, and our children, and our grandchildren. It's like, no, you are not allowed to do this. Here's another thing I recommend. Teach kids to be resilient and how to take criticism. You don't want to be afraid of criticism. If you want everybody to like you, you're going to have a miserable life. The only people you want to like you are the people that you like and admire. So if I like and admire someone, yeah, it will bother me if they don't like and admire me too. But if I don't really like or admire them, What do I care? So one of the things I do with Lindsay's and Mike's 3 children, my niece Lindsay, so Tyson, Kaylee, and Presley, and they love this game. So, you know, I'm always saying to Tyson, it's like, it's okay. I mean, I wanted you to get some demerits at school. And just so he knows it's not a bad thing. If you think you're doing the right thing and you get demerits, don't worry about it. You know, if you do something and you know it was wrong, then the demerits help. But sometimes you get demerits and you don't really deserve it. So we play the sergeant game. Because when I was in the Air Force, so Airman Castleman, you know, and then you go up to them. So they have to stand there like they're the airmen, okay? They love this game. It was fun. And then you say things like, what's wrong with you? How come you're not standing up straight? Get that smirk off your face. And then I would play the airmen, and they would do it to me. And the whole idea is that you just stand there. I just kicked the... You saw a little glitch in the... That was me kicking the stand here. Anyway, they love that game. Can we play that game again? Can we play that game again? And I just thought, you know, this is important because kids got to learn how to deal with stuff like that. That sometimes you're going to get yelled at or people are going to get mad. And I remember something I learned in 7th grade. So this would have been like 1966, 1967. We didn't have social media, but the girls had a thing called slam books. And that was, they put the person's name on a book, and pretty much everybody had a slam book, and then pass it around. And people would write anonymous comments about that person. I don't remember if we ever did this with boys. It must have been a girl thing. But I remember reading mine, and I got a mixture. But whatever it was passionate. Like, I really, really like her, or I hate her guts, or whatever. And there was a kind of a quiet gal, I'll call her Jane. And I remember everybody put, Jane's nice. But nobody was excited about Jane. Jane just was kind of like faded into the background. There was nothing negative, but there was nothing particularly positive. And I remember deciding at that time that I'd rather be me than Jane, in terms of, I'd rather excite passion. I'd rather, I don't need everybody to like me. And I think if you can get that at an early age, it's valuable. It's valuable. I mean, I seriously do not understand people talking about being attacked on social media. If you're attacked on social media, just don't look at it. Who cares? I mean, I don't get that. And what I do, like for example, if there's a comment, I don't get really bad comments on the videos, but every once in a while, I'll get a comment that feels insulting to me. And I just delete it. It's like, when I used to watch Scott Adams, he said he did the same thing. Like if he didn't like what someone was saying, or it didn't seem, I feel like it has to add to the discussion. But I certainly don't need to read something that's going to make me feel bad. Just don't do it. Just delete it. You don't have to even go online. I mean, it's just crazy. If you have a friend that's saying mean things, why are you with that person? Because if they're saying mean things and it's upsetting you, then you have a fear of that. I mean, if you don't suspect that that's true, then it doesn't really bother you. But just random things for people who don't even know me and just want to say a rude thing. By the way, if you do want to criticize somebody on social media, I've noticed this. Never start with the criticism. Because if you start with the criticism, like, I don't really care what you say about, listening to what you say about Bill Gates. This is one comment I got. Well, if you start with that, I'm just like, immediately, it's like, well, I don't want to read your stupid comment. I mean, that was the first thought that popped in my head. So I can't even really read the rest of the comment. I quickly skimmed over it and just thought, "Ugh, whatever." And I just deleted it. I find that I and probably others are more receptive if you start like, nice video or enjoyed the video. I don't know if I agree about da-da-da-da-da. Never start with what you don't agree with, because that's the first thing I'm going to see. That's the first thing other people are going to see. Even though that's the first thing on your mind, so you want to write it out, always start, and I try to do that in my own comments or response to comments, is start with the positive, okay? Because somebody took the time to write, and they're not trying to be insulting. So, by the way, I want to say something to you. Sure about that? Just before I started this video, he said, looking forward to your video tonight. Good luck. Thank you. Because I was just at that moment thinking, there's so much to say. How am I going to say it? And that was really nice. So thank you. I'm gonna, oh, there's so many things to say. Okay, here's another one. If you like my weekly videos, my weekly whatever, rants, and you haven't yet done this, please subscribe. The reason I say that is I've been at 1.9K subscribers forever. It'd be kind of nice to get to the round number of 2,000 subscribers. So I only need, 100 more. So just do that. And if you want to get notification, hit the bell. So I have the bell for a lot of videos I subscribe to. You don't want to have too many because it flashes on your iPhone that they put out a new video. So, like I do Tony Heller, whenever he comes out with a new video, I know right away. So in your case, since I only do these weekly, you would just late Saturday night when it uploads, you would just get a little flash notification that my video's ready. But anyway, it would be nice. And as I said, follow me on Twitter because I am tweeting stuff all the time and loving it. So I know a lot of you are, and I recognize your names, and it's kind of fun. It really makes me feel hopeful about all that's going on. And I didn't even talk about all the stuff that's going on about we're catching the bad guys. Finally. I'm really happy about Michael Flynn. And there's a whole lot I could say on that. But I really want to stick with this coronavirus issue right now because we really need to be strong. And we really need to live our lives as free Americans. And we don't want to take these freedoms for granted. We make the choice. We decide how to live our lives. Not the government, not these petty dictators, and we're not going to be controlled by fear. I'm happy to be part of this community, and I hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you next week.